Well, the weekend has come to an end, but we do not end things here. So today we're going to be doing something different. Now, the first review we're going to be doing, of course, is Sareee-ISM Chapter 10. And this one, of course, is celebrating 15 years of Saree's, of course, awesome career. As many of you know her back in NXT as Sareee, well, she put up a hell of a show at the Yokohama Budokan. So I can't wait to review this from A to Z on this one. However, the next review, which is going to be, of course, our last one for this particular episode, is NXT Stand and Deliver. Now, I apologize that I did not do this one sooner, but I was trying to catch up with both Stardom and New Japan. But I finally got to do this one, so let's get started on this one as well. So, as well, we will be going from A to Z on this. And of course, as always, we'll wrap up our episode as usual with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. In the world of wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information is unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also could do some real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us and click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough with the jibber jabbers. Let's get started. So, let's begin with Sareee-ISM Chapter 10. Okay, Sareee-ISM Chapter 10, um, Taiyoshin Chronicle 15th Anniversary. Now, this happened at the Yokohama Budokan on March 22nd. Now, for those who are in fact wondering why that I took this long to do this, well, I apologize for that. Now, for others who, of course, who are new to the channel, are asking, what is Sareee-ISM? Well, let me give you guys a brief description. This was originally a show that was thought of by Sareee after she left the States when things were not, when she was released from WWE at the time when she was known as Sareee. For the reason she calls the show Sareee-ISM, she was influenced by Antonio Inoki. Those who know Japanese pro wrestling, you guys know exactly what that is. That if you remembered, Antonio Inoki had this thing in New Japan called the Inokiism, and that kind of played a dark path of New Japan. So basically, but except Sareee is not in that type of fashion where she's going to a darker path with her promotion. She just barely started out. However, this particular event features many wrestlers from various promotions or freelancers that come around. And of course, she has invited like her best friend Natsupoi from Stardom and various other wrestlers. And this particular show celebrates, of course, her 15 year as a pro wrestler, and not to mention, this is one of her biggest shows she's ever done in her career. Mostly, she has done all her Sareee-ISM shows either in Shinkiba or Shinjuku Face. However, as you all know, Shinjuku Face will be closing its doors in September very soon this year. I don't know what's going to happen after that, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, let's begin, of course, with reviewing every match they have. I'm sure that's what many of you want to hear, so let's get to that. Um, our first two matches are in fact dark matches. They were not even part of the main show, but they were very, very fun entertainment. Our first match features tag team action. We have Sayaka Toyota teaming up with Akari from Pure J. For those who don't know Sayaka Toyota, she is the niece of Manami Toyota. And of course, her opponents are Uda Shima, who many of you may know her from Ice Ribbon, and as for Yuka, she's a freelancer. So basically, this is a tag team setting. Now, um, there were some moments where the pace was not going fast, but it was okay enough to show the strongness. But however, there was a moment like the frustrations were coming out, that sort of thing. But in the end, it was Toyota with the missile drop onto Shima, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was done. Now our second dark match, we have Kyoko Furuzawa, who is one of the recent rookies of Stardom, taking on one of Sealing's very own rookie, Celine Misora. So I thought this was a very good, impressive match to see what these rookies can do in the ring. I mean, sure, I could see these two ladies participating in the upcoming Umajaja, which is for the rookies in Sealing and of course other things. But it was a pretty good match. But I wasn't too sure who was going to pick up the win. But unfortunately, this match ended in a 10-minute time limit draw. So nobody wins, nobody loses. Now, let's begin with our main card of the matches. Of course, we have Imu Fujiwara teaming up with Rina, who many of you know her as Nori from that promotion LLPW-X. They take on, of course, Miku Kane and Chi-Chi, who many of you know that I mentioned. They are good. They are the somewhat proteges or people that just stick by Sareee. She's always been like, they're always by her side. They even team up, but they're even in Stardom. And I have to say, these two ladies have teamed up very well. And I have to say, both Miku Kane and Chi-Chi have been a very good cohesion team. I'm not going to lie about that because, of course, I have seen them how well they have. They have picked up wins here, losses there, but nonetheless, they are a very stable team. And I was sure this is how it's going to end, and it did when, of course, what's her name? Kane applied a German suplex on Fujiwara, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Our next match, we have Hanako versus Veni, and of course, this was a very intensified match. Hanako made a beeline to Veni when she was about to be in the ring. Well, here's the thing. Hanako may have tried to play it smart, but she should have known better that Veni is a tough cookie. She knows exactly how to bring the aggression and the hardness up to her, because she hits hard from what I can tell, and she doesn't actually play games whatsoever, despite. But unfortunately, Hanako had to learn the hard way when she ended up losing to her with the moonsault, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Next up, we have a very interesting match, a mixed singles match. We have Kuroshio Tokyo Japan, who many of you know him back in NXT as Ikemanjiro. She takes on Shin Iroda Sareee, portrayed by none other than Sakura Iroda. Yeah, if you guys ever seen her, certain times she likes to dress up on special moments like this. She was dressed up like Sareee, coming out in her entrance theme. So you can say that, but however, when it comes to Kuroshio Tokyo Japan, he's a bit funny. He can try to play some interesting tricks that will be up his sleeve. And he applied many of those, but the biggest moment was him pinning, of course, the cosplay Sareee, and pinning her with the Magistral. 1, 2, 3, done. Now, our next match, we had a very interesting 6-woman tag match. We have Fuwa-chan, who many of you now know. She's been wrestling with Stardom. She teams up with the veterans, such as, of course, Yumiko Hota from T-Hearts, and, of course, Shinobu Kendori from LLPW-X, of course. Um, and that was very interesting to see her team up with them. I mean, these ladies are they're like the kind you don't want to make a bad impression, but she knows how to hold her own. But their opponents is Senka Akatsuki, who many of you know. She's for Marvelous. She's the current, of course, Sendai Girls Junior World Champion. She teams up with other pairs of veterans, Takako Inoue and Jaguar Yokota. So basically, you have like somewhat of rookies and veterans in this type of match. But Fuwa-chan learned the hard way when Inoue applied of course, the octopus on her, and she had no choice but to tap out. Now, our next match, which is a semi-main event, we have a master versus student. Natsupoi faces off her own mentor and teacher, Kaoru Itu. And this was one of those challenges. Now, this is not the first time they have met to challenge each other. For those who may not remember, in the previous match, before Tam Nakano was forced, Natsupoi and Tam face, of course, Aja Kong and of course, Kaoru Itu on this one, and that kind of sets it up. But now Natsupoi is facing her own mentor and teacher in a one-on-one setting. Now, of course, Natsupoi is small, but she is tough as nails, as you could probably can guess. But Ito, she is strong. She knows exactly what she needs to do. But however, the usual arsenal that Natsupoi would have applied would not work on her, so she applied other things. And of course, she did that by using a simple move, which was the Magistral. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, Natsupoi beaten her mentor, and just like that. And of course, in the post-match promo, you can tell that it's hard for her that she did this, that she defeated her, surpassed her. So it's very much exactly how that turned out. But it was a very emotional for her because she couldn't believe that she actually defeated her mentor, but she did it anyway. Now, our next match is a main event. We have Chihiro Hashimoto and Shuri teaming up, which was very interesting because a couple years ago, Shuri and Hashimoto kind of clashed over certain things because these ladies know each other prior before Shuri ended up in Stardom. But they're facing off a team, of course, that have been very successful, and that is Spark Rush, consistent of Takumi Iroha and, of course, the Lady of the Hour, Sareee. So obviously it was going to be interesting. I mean, Sareee has dealt with Shuri in the past, not to mention the former IWGP Women's Champion, that sort of thing. And of course, there was a lot of things that were going to take place. But of course, for those who may not remember, Sareee has faced Hashimoto before in a single setting. She was her first opponent when she came back to Japan, but eventually she lost that one. She did get her pound the flesh again in another singles match at another series, but it worked perfectly for her. But this time is a tag team setting that you probably wouldn't imagine. But taking out Hashimoto was not an easy task, but Sareee was able to successfully pull it off when she applied the Uranagi, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So Sareeism and of course Takumi Iroha picked up the win. What a best way for Sareee to win on her 15th anniversary show. So if you guys haven't seen it, you should try to find it somewhere. But if you have not seen, if you guys are interested more on Sareeism, well, I'll put more if the day comes. But right now, we're done with this. Let's move on with our last and final review, NXT Stand and Deliver. Okay, NXT Stand and Deliver. Now, I apologize for waiting maybe a day after watching this, but I had no other choice. So, let's just get to it. Now, as you know, there was a match in the countdown. Now, some people may not like it, but I wanted to watch it because I did like how, of course, Charlotte Hill said he had a better idea. If you guys saw what happened on Tuesday, Charlotte Hill was like, had that statistic like, I got something. So he just walked away, not knowing exactly what he was going to do. But of course, he approached Mr. Stone about this idea, and he liked it. So it was a 10-person tag match. So Charlotte Hill teamed up with not only with Hank and Tank, he also teamed up with EK Prosper and our current Women's Speed Champion Ren Sinclair while they take on the full force of Birthright. Now, of course, one thing that was really interesting about this match is Ren Sinclair getting a little bit of an ass whipping to, of course, well, giving an ass whipping to Charlie Dempsey after abandoning her to join the Birthright. And I thought it was a pretty good moment. But in the end, it was, of course, honk honk by Hank and Tank to take out Charlie Dempsey. But it was Charlotte Hill that made the final blow with the whiplash. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, adios, it's over. So I'm sure Birthright are going to be, of course, crying in their diapers that they can't believe they lost, thinking that they were unstoppable. Well, let's see what happens on Tuesday. Now, our next match, of course, is our opening of the entire main card, is the NXT Women's title defended in a three-way setting. Now, let's go back exactly how this happened. Now, this past Tuesday, we saw a number one contendership match between Lola Vice and Kendall Gray. However, at the end of the match, there was a bit of a confusion. Lola Vice had a Kendall Gray in a headlock position, but it was Kendall Gray that applied a suplex. However, the referee saw from a point of view that it was a pinfall. Now, the camera saw exactly from the point of view from what we saw, she tapped out. But unfortunately, the head ref of the NXT core saw that she tapped out, so there was a bit of a confusion. Now, 24 hours later, which I reported recently, of course, if you saw that video, Mr. Stone announced that it was decided there was going to be the NXT Women's title will be defended in a three-way. However, there is some disadvantages on this one. Of course, wherever Jacy Jayne goes, well, of course, the Fatal Influence was not that far enough. I mean, we know Fallon Henley and Laney Reed were definitely going to be there by her side, but of course, Kendall Gray had Ren Sinclair by there, so there was going to be interference. Lola Vice had to go at it alone, so there was a lot of moments where things were going to be where they take out one person to ensure that Jacy Jayne went out. But however, the one thing that was interesting is Ren Sinclair cleaned house by removing the Fatal. So basically, Jacy Jayne had nothing to ensure this title will stay by her side. But the one thing that ended well is when Jacy Jayne applied the rolling encore onto Kendall Gray, not realizing that she had knocked her out of the ring, is that Lola Vice applied the back fist, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Lola Vice, our brand new NXT Women's Champion. Now, our next match, we have, of course, Los Americanos, Rayo y Bravo, taking on the Vanity Project, consistent of Ricky Smokes and Brad Baylor. But of course, Los Americanos have the Grande Americano behind their side, and of course, Smokes and Baylor had Jax Drake, and of course they were going to get involved in every way possible, and that's exactly what we expected. I mean, El Grande took out Drake, and then Drake took out Bravo by knocking him out, and of course, we did see Smokes pinning Bravo, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was done. So they retained the belts. Now, Charlotte Hill and Tatum Paxley were having a nice conversation. Charlotte Hill was very happy about the win, Tatum Paxley too, but of course, she doesn't have her title until she had a nice conversation with the host of Stand and Deliver, Sexy Red. However, of course, Ricky Saints showed up acting like he thinks he's a big shot star, telling, you don't need to hang out with these losers. I'm the big shot here. So, like that. So, basically, Sexy Red's like, who the hell is this guy? So she had that look in her face, you know? So, you can guess it. Now, our next match is a grudge match. We have two former best friends, Zarya and Soruka. Now, if you guys remember, they were a very good team until, of course, a lot of things took place. Jealousy, mistakes, all of that. And Zarya snapped by taking out Soruka one way or the other. And that's pretty much. And, of course, Soruka was going to try to divert everything she had, and Zarya was going to bring out the pain. But what's crazy is Soruka applied the Soul Snatcher outside, right in the ramp, which is the hardest place you would have expected. No one would have done that. But, of course, there were going to be multiple times Soruka was about to apply the Soul Snatcher, and then she applied it 2 more times onto Zarya, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Soruka picked up the win. Now, Mr. Stone, of course, congratulated Lola Vice on her excellent win, which was long time coming. But however, Mr. Stone advised her, saying now that she's the NXT Women's Champion, basically she'll be having, of course, targets coming at her. And of course, Lola Vice is prepared. Now, our next match is for the NXT North American title. Johnny Gargano, or as we know him as Johnny Wrestling, or Johnny Takeover, takes on Miles Bourne. So, of course, this was going to be a brutal match. Now, Miles Bourne did say that he is expected to see Johnny Wrestling to show up, but Johnny Gargano told him, be careful what you wish for. And of course, Miles Bourne knows what he was getting himself into. He's not an idiot. He knows that Johnny Takeover, Johnny Wrestling is a guy that is a different phase. But of course, we were seeing that little funk of his where he looks like he was about to pass out, but it didn't work out that well for him. And of course, Candice LeRae ended up getting involved, but it didn't do anything for her. But it was, of course, Miles Bourne with the Born Again that sealed the deal. 1, 2, 3. It was over. So he retained the belt. However, during the post-match, Dion Lennox showed up and attacked him. Now, we still don't know what's the main reason, but many of us can think that he's letting his frustrations out to lead a statement open, because, of course, things have not been looking very well with Dark State as this lately, so that sort of thing plays out too well. Now, our next match is for the NXT Women's North American title. Blake Monroe versus Tatum Paxley. Now, as you all know, Tatum Paxley defended the NXT Women's North American title against Izzy Damon and Steel Cage. But, however, of course, while she celebrated her victory, well, that's where things, of course, got a little interesting. Blake Monroe, who was the former champion, is trying to reclaim it back. So she was trying to declare herself that she is the NXT North American Women's Champion, even though the record says no. So you can tell that Blake Monroe was going to do whatever it takes to put away Tatum Paxley to show the world she is not championship material. Well, it didn't do any work for her because she ended up being taken out on a cemetery drive, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Tatum Paxley retained the belt and she reclaimed her title as well. Now, in the back, Dark State were having a bit of a moment. Of course, Dion Lennox was happy for what he did. Even Cutler James and Osiris Griffin was definitely enjoying what they just saw. But for Sugar, he felt like, you did this on your own time, not on Dark State time. So, of course, Dion Lennox was trying to reason with them about what he just did. But it seems like now that things are not looking for, of course, Dark State. It's because, as you all know, things have not been going well for them at all. So don't know what this means. Could this mean the fall of Dark State? We'll just have to wait and see in the upcoming weeks as we go down the road. Now, of course, Blake Monroe, as you know, she in fact is happy that she retained the belt and all that. So she was not happy to retain the belt, and then Danny Project told her, how do I say, that she could use a hand. Now, I did see an interview coming from, of course, Soruka, as you know, about her thing with Zarya, and of course, the possibilities chasing for the NXT Women's title. But however, it seems someone else has an aim for that as well. So we'll see where that goes to. Now, our main event is the NXT Championship in a 4-way. Tony D'Angelo versus Ricky Saints versus Ethan Page versus Joe Hendry. Now, we would have assumed that Ricky Saints and Ethan Page was definitely going to work together in some ways to take the competition out, and then they'll worry about each other. But of course, the temptation is like you can't have one person take the win, and that plays out too. And of course, they definitely try to take each other outside. But it was Tony D'Angelo that took out both Page and Saints outside the ring through the commentary desk, and just like that, it was over for them. However, Tony D'Angelo still had some unfinished business in the ring towards Joe Hendry, and then he applied, of course, the dead to right, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, brand new NXT champion. So mission accomplished. He's already defeated Dark State, but now he also obtained the NXT championship. So the real question is, what's next? Well, we'll just have to wait and see this coming Tuesday to see what Tony D'Angelo has in mind. So stay tuned for more. But as of right now, we are officially done with NXT and everything else, all the reviews. Let's move on to our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news update. So let's begin with upcoming events, and we have about 3 of them. As you know, we have the upcoming Las Vegas show by Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. We have Multiverse on the 17th. They just announced that the Amazing Red would be there. Now, that would have been, to me, it's no surprise, because for those who may remember, Scott D'Amore was back in TNA during the early days, and Amazing Red is one of the few wrestlers that made the X Division what it was back in the day. So I have to say I'm okay and satisfied with that. Now, as you know, we have the Spark Yoshi Puroresu of America with Lady Luck 2 taking place on the 18th in Las Vegas. 2 more names have been added. The first one is Kaya McKenna and Jada Stone, who many of you have seen her on TNA recently. And then finally, we have Wrestling Revolver with Revolver Strong on the 25th of April. They announced that the Revolver World title will be defended. Kroll defends it against of course, the Southern Psycho Mance Warner. And then they announced the debut of Outbreak. I don't even know who these guys are, but that's what they mentioned. Now, on to some developments. Fightful Select reports about Thekla. As you know, she made a final deal with AEW. From what they're saying, they said the deal is a multi-year deal, finalized well before her free agency. So basically, this was like already been long done ever since then. So it makes perfect sense. Now, Fightful also reports that TAKA Michinoku was involved in a car accident, but the following day he has to be in wrestling. So by the time this video is out, it should be already happened. Now, NWA has announced, of course, it was reported by Fightful Select that they have struck a deal for the NWA Power with the Sinclair Broadcasting Network. If you're not familiarized with this network group, they are in fact the same group that broadcast Ring of Honor before it was purchased by Tony Khan. So it would make absolute sense, and I think we probably will see NWA in certain territories, in case anybody asks. Now, Cory Graves mentioned, as you know, recently on about the whole thing with him being in AAA. He said that he says during the WWE AAA that there will be, of course, an influx of international talent competing in trios style matches in the months to come. Now, what does that mean? I know they do have trios belts in AAA. I don't know if WWE has any interest of doing that. I don't know, but we'll see. Now, Chris Van Vliet, as you know, many of you know him, as an interview. He interviewed many wrestlers, and he recently talked about one particular person, and that is Sting. He talked about having an interview with Sting, but Sting feels unattainable right now because Sting does not do interviews and lives off grid. So this is what he said. Sting for me is like, I think, feels unattainable right now. He doesn't do interviews. He does a lot of appearances, but does not really do interviews, and he doesn't need to. Van Vliet said that he has met Sting, and Sting told him that they would do, and eventually he's like, well, Let's do one day. But right now, I'm like, okay, fair enough. Van Vliet said that his unattainable bucket list interview is Randy Orton, and that one seems unattainable. We exchanged some messages. Although he's a heel now, he might bash my head, sort of thing. So it makes sense that about Sting. I mean, Sting always keeps himself, private, and it makes that up certain why he doesn't do interviews. Now, finally, as you all know, we saw Will Ospreay at Sakura Genesis recently. Tokyo Sport reports that he's not going to be participating in the upcoming Osaka-jo Hall event in Dominion, which will happen in 2 months' time. And he explains that he won't be there because he's getting married. Yeah, this is what he said. I can't appear in Osaka Hall in June 14th because my wife is Alex Windsor, is that day after the event. But I want to participate in many big New Japan matches as possible this year. AEW is the best environment, but I have a special feeling for Japan, and all I want to do is spend more time with the members of the United Empire. So yeah, so he won't be there in Dominion, so that's pretty much it. What we do know. So we'll keep more updated on that part, but that's pretty much it. So until then, let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, well, I haven't decided yet what I'm gonna do, but I also will be doing another news updates regarding about Saki Kashima and more names that are being added for the upcoming WrestleCon event in Las Vegas. So stay tuned for that. I am currently still working on the discussion video for the Cosmic Angels. As you know, their existence is at stake at this moment. As you probably know, Kurara put the Cosmic Angels' life on the line, so we'll see how that rolls. But we will do more talk about that, so we'll see. But as of right now, we'll leave things as it is, and I'll say this, that I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.